The metallic tang of sweat and liniment hung heavy in the air of the Sterling MMA gym, usually a symphony of grunts and rhythmic thuds. But on this particular Tuesday afternoon, an unnatural silence descended the moment Jamal Campbell stepped through the polished glass doors. His worn work boots squeaked a discordant note on the gleaming floor, a stark contrast to the expensive athletic shoes and designer activewear that surrounded him. In his hand, he clutched a tattered flyer for the World Tournament Open tryouts, its edges softened by countless hopeful touches. Then a voice, amplified by the gym's acoustics and a nearby microphone, cut through the quiet. "Look what we have here." Victor Sterling, the reigning MMA world champion, a blonde, arrogant figure with a chiseled jaw and a smirk that could curdle milk, paused his interview. He was mid-boast about natural superiority, a common theme in his viral social media rants about knowing one's place. His eyes, cold and dismissive, swept over Jamal. "Looks like someone got lost on the way to the soup kitchen. This isn't a charity project, honey." The words, though seemingly casual, were laced with thinly veiled racial contempt, a familiar sting that tightened Jamal's jaw. He felt the burning shame, the familiar dismissal that had followed him his entire life. But deep within him, a quiet, defiant fire ignited. His hand instinctively went to the tarnished silver dog tag hanging beneath his worn t-shirt. His late grandfather's, a man who had taught him the intricate dance of street martial arts from the tender age of 5. His grandfather's gravelly voice, a comforting echo from the past, filled his mind. "Honey, true power ain't about how loud you shout, but how steady your aim." The injustice was palpable, a heavy weight in the air. The onlookers, a mix of gym members and Victor's sycophantic entourage, watched, some with morbid curiosity, others with a chilling indifference. The question hung unspoken. How could this unassuming janitor possibly push back against such blatant arrogance and entrenched prejudice? Detroit, a city forged in steel and soul, was Jamal's world. It was a place of grit and unwavering spirit, but also of deep-seated divisions, where the gleaming skyscrapers of downtown stood in stark contrast to the proud yet often struggling neighborhoods he called home. His life was a constant grind, a relentless cycle of early morning janitorial shifts in sterile office buildings, followed by late nights cleaning the very gym where Victor Sterling held court. Every dollar earned was a brick laid in the foundation of a better future for his family. His ailing mother, whose medical bills mounted like a silent threat, and his younger sister, whose dreams of college depended entirely on him. The World Tournament wasn't just a competition, it was a lifeline, a chance at prize money that could change everything. He envisioned his mother finally receiving the specialized care she desperately needed, his sister walking across a graduation stage, diploma in hand. His own hands, calloused from years of scrubbing floors and lifting heavy equipment, were also hands that moved with surprising grace and devastating power, a silent testament to the countless hours spent in dusty back alleys honing the street martial arts his grandfather had taught him. Those were lessons born not of a dojo, but of necessity, of survival. In his small apartment, after a long day, the soulful voice of Aretha Franklin often filled the air from his old radio, her powerful anthems of strength and respect resonating deep within him. He'd often find himself tracing the worn edges of his grandfather's dog tag, warm against his chest. It was more than just a memento, it was a tangible link to the wisdom and fighting spirit passed down through generations, a compass guiding him through the daily pressures. He felt the dismissive glances from some of the gym's affluent members, the condescending tones from supervisors who saw only a janitor, never a contender. They assumed his place, his limits. But the dog tag, a constant weight and comfort, reminded him of a different kind of power, a power that didn't shout but aimed true. Jamal's quiet presence, a stark contrast to the gym's usual boisterous energy, seemed to prick at Victor Sterling's inflated ego. Victor, ever the showman, and emboldened by his online popularity, saw not just a janitor but an opportunity. He needed fresh content for his millions of followers, a new target to reinforce his narrative of natural superiority. And so the challenge came, swift and public, designed for maximum humiliation. "Just a little exhibition," Victor purred into a reporter's microphone, his eyes fixed on Jamal. "Show this, enthusiast what real MMA looks like." His manager, a slick, opportunistic man named Chad, stood beside him, nodding approvingly, already envisioning the viral content. This wasn't just a fight, it was a public execution, carefully choreographed to reinforce Victor's racist narrative for his millions of social media followers. Jamal felt the familiar knot of anger and frustration tighten in his gut. He knew this was a trap, a public lynching in all but name. He'd seen Victor's recent Instagram post, a particularly cutting remark. Some people confuse desperation with skill. They think just because life is hard, they automatically know how to fight. The words stung, burning like acid. They echoed the countless times he'd been dismissed, overlooked, or told his dreams were too big for someone like him. He clenched his fist, his fingers brushing against the cool, familiar metal of the dog tag beneath his shirt. He closed his eyes for a moment, picturing his grandfather, a man who had faced far worse, a man who had navigated a world designed to break him, yet never back down. He remembered the quiet strength in his grandfather's eyes, the steady resolve that had seen him through countless hardships. The memory of his grandfather's quiet strength, his unwavering aim, flooded him, pushing back against the bitterness. He opened his eyes, a calm resolve replacing the initial hurt. "I accept," Jamal said, his voice steady, surprising not only Victor but also himself. A ripple of whispers spread through the gym. The janitor had just called the champion's bluff. The news of the impending spar spread like wildfire through the Detroit fight scene, fueled by Victor's relentless social media campaign. His manager, Chad, a man whose loyalty was solely to profit, began subtly manipulating the rules for the upcoming World Tournament tryouts. He insisted on heavier gloves for the exhibition match, knowing Jamal was accustomed to lighter, faster street fighting. He also pushed for specific weight classes for the tournament that would disadvantage Jamal, trying to stack the deck against him before he even had a chance. "He's just a janitor," Jamal overheard a gym member, a burly white fighter named Mark, scoffing to a friend. "What does he know about real MMA?" The words were a punch to the gut, echoing the pervasive prejudice that seemed to follow him everywhere. Jamal found himself plagued by self-doubt. Can he truly compete against a world champion, a man whose entire life is dedicated to this sport? Is he foolish to even try, to risk everything for a dream that felt increasingly out of reach? One evening, as he meticulously cleaned the gym, the silence of the empty space amplifying his anxieties, his hand brushed against the small, worn pouch where he kept his grandfather's dog tag. He pulled it out, and tucked inside, almost hidden, was an old, faded photograph. It was a picture of his grandfather, young and lean, standing proudly in a makeshift ring in Kingston, surrounded by cheering faces. On the back, in his grandfather's shaky, almost illegible handwriting, were two simple words: "Never let 'em tell you who you are. Show 'em." This simple message, a direct echo of his grandfather's unwavering wisdom, washed over him like a wave of renewed determination. He clutched the dog tag, the cool metal a stark contrast to the burning resolve that now flared in his chest. The doubt, which had threatened to consume him, began to recede, replaced by a fierce, quiet certainty. He wasn't just a janitor. He was Jamal Campbell, grandson of a fighter, inheritor of a legacy, and he was about to show them all. Unbeknownst to Victor and his scheming manager, Jamal's quiet resolve had not gone unnoticed. Tom Rodriguez, the veteran trainer and owner of the Sterling Gym, had been observing Jamal for weeks. Tom was a man of few words, but his eyes missed nothing. He'd seen countless fighters come and go, but there was something in Jamal's movements, a raw, untamed talent, an instinct for survival that reminded him of the legendary fighters he'd known in his youth. After witnessing Victor's blatant attempts to sabotage Jamal, both with the public challenge and the subtle rule manipulations for the tournament tryouts, Tom, a man who believed in true grit and fair play, knew he had to act. One evening, as Jamal was finishing his cleaning duties, Tom approached him, his face unreadable. "Kid," Tom's voice was gruff but sincere. "You got something special, something they can't teach in a fancy gym." He paused, letting his words hang in the air. "I've seen the tryout list. Victor's trying to cut you out, but there's another way. I can train you, personally, for the tournament." It was an unexpected lifeline, a chance to bypass Victor's machinations entirely. Jamal, initially wary of anyone offering help, saw the genuine respect in Tom's eyes. This wasn't charity, this was an acknowledgement of his worth. This was the turning point. Jamal accepted Tom's offer, a silent pact forged in the quiet of the empty gym. He dedicated every waking hour to training, balancing his grueling janitorial work with even more grueling sessions under Tom's watchful eye. Tom pushed him relentlessly, refining his shadow street techniques, the fluid footwork, the unexpected angles, the lightning-fast counters, into disciplined, devastating MMA moves. Jamal's anger, once a simmering resentment, transformed into focused energy, a sharp weapon honed for a singular purpose. Before each session, he performed his ritual, slipping off his grandfather's dog tag, kissing it, and placing it carefully on the edge of the mat. It was a silent conversation with his past, a promise to his future, a reaffirmation of his grandfather's enduring wisdom. He was no longer just fighting for survival. He was fighting for dignity, for his family, and to honor the legacy of the man who taught him that true power lay in a steady aim. The dog tag, cool against his lips, became his anchor, a constant reminder of his roots and the formidable strength within him. The day of the preliminary tournament tryouts arrived, a whirlwind of flashing lights and roaring crowds. Victor Sterling's team had done their best to ensure Jamal faced a formidable opponent in the first round, a hulking, aggressive fighter named The Mountain, known for his brutal power and relentless pressure. He was handpicked to crush Jamal's hopes, to prove Victor's point before the main event. The crowd, many of them Victor's online followers, jeered at Jamal as he entered the cage, their voices a hostile chorus of doubt. Before the fight, in the quiet chaos of the locker room, Jamal went through his ritual. He slipped off his grandfather's dog tag, its tarnished silver glinting under the harsh fluorescent lights. He brought it to his lips, kissing the cool metal, a surge of calm confidence washing over him. It wasn't just a good luck charm, it was a conduit to his grandfather's spirit, a reminder of every lesson learned, every hardship overcome. He placed it carefully on the corner stool, a silent guardian. As the bell rang, Jamal unleashed his refined shadow style. The Mountain charged, a blur of muscle and raw aggression, throwing wild, powerful swings. But Jamal moved like water, his footwork unorthodox, almost invisible. He dodged the opponent's brutal attacks with fluid, almost balletic grace, reminiscent of a jazz improvisation, a dance of survival honed on concrete, now perfected on canvas. He used his street-honed ability to anticipate, slipping punches by inches, then delivering precise counterstrikes with devastating accuracy. He didn't just fight, he danced, weaving in and out, landing quick, sharp jabs and unexpected low kicks that buckled the mountain's knees. The crowd, initially hostile, began to murmur in awe, their jeers turning to gasps of surprise. Jamal secured a hard-fought victory, not a knockout, but a decisive win on points, proving his skill and earning a coveted spot in the main event against Victor. It was a small victory, but it sent a ripple through the arena, a tremor of unease in Victor's corner.
The air in the arena crackled with an almost unbearable tension. This was it, the final match. Jamal "Shadow" Campbell versus Victor Sterling. The stadium was packed to the rafters, a sea of faces buzzing with anticipation, a mix of genuine fight fans and Victor's rabid online following. Victor, desperate to reclaim his narrative after Jamal's unexpected win, had doubled down on his racist rhetoric online, fueling a toxic atmosphere that permeated every corner of the venue. Before stepping into the cage, Jamal found a quiet moment amidst the chaos. He slipped off his grandfather's dog tag, its tarnished silver glinting under the blinding arena lights. He brought it to his lips, kissing the cool metal, feeling his grandfather's presence, a quiet strength flowing through him, grounding him. This wasn't just a fight anymore. This was for every dismissal, every sneer, every knowing your place. The bell shrilled, and the two fighters met in the center of the octagon. Victor, relying on brute force and textbook techniques, tried to overwhelm Jamal, unleashing a barrage of powerful punches and kicks. He moved with the practiced aggression of a champion, but Jamal, guided by his grandfather's wisdom and Tom's rigorous training, moved with an almost supernatural fluidity. He absorbed Victor's powerful strikes, deflecting blows with subtle shifts of his body, his eyes locked on his opponent, reading every intention. He was a shadow, elusive and precise. Then, seizing a split-second opening, Jamal delivered the combination that would change everything. A lightning-fast jab snapped Victor's head back, followed by a thunderous cross that rocked him to his core. As Victor staggered, momentarily disoriented, Jamal seamlessly transitioned, a precise low kick sweeping his lead leg, then a perfectly timed double-leg takedown that slammed Victor onto the mat with a sickening thud. The crowd, a moment ago divided, erupted in a unified roar. Jamal, moving with the grace and efficiency of a predator, secured the knockout, his final decisive strike landing with the force of accumulated justice. The arena exploded in a cacophony of triumph and vindication. The roar of the crowd was deafening, a wave of sound that washed over Jamal as the referee raised his hand. He was the new champion. The prize money, a life-changing sum, was his. But more than the financial reward, it was the vindication, the shattering of Victor Sterling's hateful narrative that truly resonated. Victor, still dazed on the canvas, was a picture of utter defeat. His manager, Chad, rushed to his side, but his face was pale, his phone already buzzing with frantic calls. Victor Sterling's career collapsed with the speed of a falling skyscraper. The viral videos of his humiliating defeat, juxtaposed with his own arrogant and racist social media posts, became a global meme overnight. His natural superiority had been exposed as nothing more than a thin veneer of privilege. Sponsors, quick to distance themselves from the controversy, dropped him en masse. His once rabid fan base, now seeing him as a symbol of hypocrisy, turned on him with a vengeance. His career, built on a foundation of hate and self-aggrandizement, dissolved into a cautionary tale, a stark reminder that what goes around truly does come around. Jamal, on the other hand, stood tall.
With his winnings, he immediately secured the best medical care for his mother, watching with a lump in his throat as she finally received the treatment she deserved. Then, true to his roots and his grandfather's legacy, he established a community center in his old neighborhood. It wasn't just a center, it was a beacon of hope, complete with a state-of-the-art MMA gym. At the opening ceremony of the Shadow Legacy Gym, Jamal stood on a small stage, holding his grandfather's dog tag, its tarnished silver now gleaming under the new lights. He spoke about the power of resilience, the importance of respect, and how true strength comes not from shouting loudest, but from aiming truest. He announced a scholarship program for young, aspiring fighters from disadvantaged backgrounds, ensuring they had the opportunities he almost didn't. He then placed his grandfather's dog tag prominently in a display case at the gym's entrance, a silent, powerful symbol of the journey, the victory, and the enduring legacy he now carried forward. It was a tangible piece of his past, now a guiding light for the future. Years later, the Shadow Legacy Gym thrived, a vibrant hub of activity in Jamal's old neighborhood. Its walls, once bare, were now adorned with photographs of young, diverse faces, many of whom were scholarship recipients, training with the same dedication Jamal once showed. Jamal "Shadow" Campbell had become more than just a champion. He was a national inspiration. His story featured in documentaries and taught in schools as a testament to what could be achieved against all odds. He traveled the country, speaking to packed auditoriums, his calm, steady voice resonating with a message of hope and empowerment. His influence stretched far beyond the octagon. He partnered with local organizations to combat racial prejudice, using his platform to advocate for systemic change and equal opportunities. The dog tag, now a polished artifact in the gym's display case, served as a silent, powerful reminder of his journey. It was a symbol not just of his personal triumph, but of the collective victory over the insidious forces of discrimination. He often saw young fighters, their eyes wide with dreams, pausing before the case, tracing the outlines of the medal, drawing strength from its quiet presence. One afternoon, a young black boy, no older than 10, new to the gym and clutching a worn pair of gloves, stood before the display case, gazing intently at the dog tag. Jamal, now a respected mentor with a gentle smile, approached him. He placed a hand on the boy's shoulder, a gesture of quiet encouragement. That, Jamal said, his voice a low, steady rumble, echoing the wisdom of his own grandfather, is a reminder that your power ain't about how loud you shout, but how steady your aim. The boy looked up, eyes wide with understanding and newfound determination, a spark of recognition igniting within him. As the soulful strains of Aretha Franklin's Respect drifted softly from the gym's speakers, Jamal stood tall, watching the next generation begin their own journey, a testament to a life rewritten, a legacy cemented, and justice served.